on SAP HANA, the entire database is so much simpler than a relational database. And we've got one code line, one data model, one semantic in there. So yeah, essentially a lot of it is about the simplification, getting our users, empowering them. Now you would see that the topic there says the digital core, and I'll explain in a second why. So everybody, when they talk about digital transformation, of course, part of it is the innovation part, getting value from the innovation. The conundrum that organizations are sitting with is that you can't just drop your business and go and innovate. You got to innovate while you're running your current business. That's the challenge. And so you need a stable, established environment. You need to run your processes effectively. You need to run mass processes, zero faults. And I mean, this is what SAP is doing for you today. Many of the customers, when I speak to them, they say to me, Hannes, we're getting 99.7% uptime, which is great. And that's what you need. On the other hand, you need to innovate. And this innovation can no longer take a year or 18 months or however long. You've got to innovate pretty fast because, as it says there, speed beats quality. You got to get to the market first. That is why cloud is playing such a big part in this, because it allows us to innovate much faster and to bring it to market much, much faster. And of course, for many businesses, they have to reinvent their businesses. They're actually moving into other industries during their reinvention of their business. So SAP, of course, knows this, and that is why we are building what we call the intelligent, sustainable enterprise. This is SAP's vision, is that we want to help all organizations become intelligent, sustainable enterprises. Now, you'll see on this slide, they showed me there's a pointer thing here. Yeah, maybe I should get there. There's the SAP S/4HANA. So it is the digital core. Now it's built on top of the business technology platform. Around it, we've got our line of business solutions, our industry solutions, and then the industry cloud. Now, what I'd like to explain on the solution is the intent of SAP. And the intention of SAP is that we want to ensure that our customers can implement our SAP S/4HANA system as their backend and know that it will work. Once it's implemented, it must work. It must be the SAP that you've come to learn and trust. It must be rock solid. But on the other hand, we want to make it possible for you then to innovate. And this is where the business technology platform comes in. So customers can, of course, innovate on the business technology platform, but we have a special place where we are doing this called the industry cloud. And so the way that SAP in future is going to bring new innovations on the edge to market is through the industry cloud. SAP is developing many of these industry cloud solutions, but we have many partners developing these, all of them on the business technology platform, all of them in the cloud. So once you have the stable core being S4, then it's very easy to adopt these industry cloud solutions. And in this way, you can innovate and quickly differentiate yourself and give yourself a competitive advantage. Welcome. Welcome, Isabel. Right, so let's get into the strategic narrative for digital transformation. I found this really interesting that when asked by McKinsey what the main driver was for their digital transformation, the majority of companies actually said to differentiate ourselves from competitors. And this is wonderful. When I read this, I thought, well, that's great. Now, if you ask our SAP customers, and this is the SAP user group here, many of them might say to you, Hannes, we're doing this because We know that in 2027 there's a big stick hanging over us with maintenance, and by 2030 the stick is bigger, and by then you're going to run out of maintenance. Guys, that's not what SAP want. We want you to use your digital transformation to differentiate yourself, to give yourselves a competitive advantage. It's also interesting in the research that was done that companies, sorry, let me just move on here. I think I'm going to kill this thing because I keep on looking there instead of there. So this is what I was saying, that 51% of companies are basically saying that they are doing a digital transformation because they want to differentiate themselves. So what is interesting on this slide is you can say, but we'll just throw money at the problem. Unfortunately, this is not what happened. What this slide is showing is that although some companies in their digital transformation spend 11 to 20% of their annual revenues on their digital transformation, some of them got an increase of 12% on their earnings uplift, and others got a 21% uplift. So just throwing money at a digital transformation is clearly not the answer. So why is it that some organizations are getting the full value from their transformation and others not? I think this slide really tells the story. Essentially, everybody, when they start off with a digital transformation, they're expecting a certain value. They've done a lot of research, they've probably done ROI studies and so forth, and they're expecting a certain value. The reality is that many of them are only getting 50 to 65% value through their digital transformations. And there are three key reasons why this is happening. The first one has got to do with selection and prioritization. And I can tell you that what I am showing you here is what I do as a day-to-day job for the past at least 10 years. And what happens is when customers are not very careful with their selection in the digital transformation, for example, it might be as simple as saying we're first going to go like for like, and then we're going to add some additional areas where the biggest value is, and then we'll really look at the other innovative areas. When they try to do too much too quickly, they either get a fright because the cost is just too high, or they end up just doing nothing, or they end up doing the implementation, but it's just so complex that they're not successful. So the selection process is really important. The next one here that we've got is, of course, inefficient project. This is the same for a digital transformation and for any other project. You need to make sure that you've got the best people helping you with your implementation. And then lastly, poor adoption and value tracking. So you need to make sure that during a digital transformation that you're bringing your users on board with you. Change management, getting them involved from the beginning, empowering them so that they get excited about what they're going to get and so forth. And then essentially value tracking. You'd be surprised that at SAP, it happens every now and then that a customer comes to SAP and tells us, we implemented SAP a couple of years ago, but we're not sure about the value that we got from implementing SAP. Now, let me assure you that's not an easy thing to answer. So when you do a digital transformation, you want to put a peg in the ground right from the word go, so that you can actually measure the value throughout the process to ensure that you're actually getting the full value as expected. And some companies, as you can see there at the bottom, as many as 17% of companies are actually employing value management people now to help them to measure whether they are actually getting the value from the digital transformation. Okay, with that in mind, of course, SAP would help you to get value with your digital transformation to SAP S/4HANA. And with this, I'd like to introduce the SAP Customer Value Journey. The SAP customer value journey has essentially got 5 steps, and then it goes into a 6th step. So the first step is all about exploring the potential, the discovery phase. So this is an organization looking at their vision, looking at their strategy, looking at what is happening in the market, what is happening at their competitors, looking at what vendors and technology can help them to reach their vision and so forth. It's all about discovery. The second one, where I will go into a bit of detail, is building the vision. So this is where we then look at your current situation, we look at your future situation, we look at the barriers, and we see how technology can help you overcome the current barriers and get to where you want to be in the end. Once we've done that, we go into the deliver the promise, or the adopt phase. And in this phase, essentially, we want to make sure that our customers get agile implementation from a proficient partner of SAP or SAP services to ensure that you actually get the value that we promise. In the phase here that says maximum value derive, this is where, of course, we want to then start measuring whether we're actually getting the value that was promised to us. And SAP is placing a lot of emphasis on this now. We are busy developing tools at this stage. Some of them has been rolled out. A lot of us, like myself, still needs to be taught on these tools to really help customers to measure whether they got their value. So we'll be running reports on your system as an example to see how effectively processes are running. And it's proactive, so we can let you know up front there are some issues in this part of this business process. The days that SAP customers just logs OSS calls and, it's not really our problem. We're carrying on, the guys there in Germany solving your OSS notes and so forth. That's gone. We want to stay involved. We want to ensure that you're getting the value from the system. And then finally, of course, is once you've got all of this running, you want to really look at now, okay, how do I move this forward? How do I innovate? How do I move into new directions, new industries, and so forth? And then, of course, the last phase there is that SAP will provide you the opportunity to influence the development and of the solutions in your space or area. So we'll have a continuous feedback loop to hear what our customers require. So that, in a nutshell, is the customer value journey. Now, Estelle is sitting there at the back. If she wasn't here, I would probably have shown you this slide with all this writing, and stuff, and she would have told me afterwards that all the training I got at SAP was completely and utterly useless to me. But I've put it in here so that afterwards, when you download the presentation, you actually have this and you can read through it again. Okay. Right. So I'd like to talk to you out of my heart now, because, many people say, yeah, Hannes, you've been with SAP so long now, so what do you actually do? I always laugh when I hear my family explain what Hannes does, So it's quite interesting. I actually did this presentation to my wife to tell her this is actually what I do. Okay. Right, so I'm very, very involved with this build the vision phase. And I have been for many years. And, people like Isabel has been doing many, many of these things with me. And over the years, we called it different names. The previous name was called Vision to Value. And now, it's part of the customer engagement life cycle. But essentially, the process is as follows. We go to CIOs or executives of companies and that are interested in transitioning to SAP S/4HANA or to RISE. We have discussions with the C-level people, explain the methodology to them, show them the process that we've got to go through, show them what the outcome would be, and get their buy-in. Because I can assure you that without the buy-in from executives, you might as well go home. Once we've done that, we then focus down on which specific areas are we going to prioritize? From this prioritization, we then set up the workshops, we start planning it. Many of these engagements are large. In such cases, we actually established a project manager on both the SAP and customer side to ensure that we structure, that we stay within planned timelines and so forth. We then run discovery workshops. Discovery workshops are, for example, a workshop with finance, normally last about 3 hours. And we have a discussion then with the business to understand where they're at, where they want to be, what their challenges are, and so forth. It's not a discussion about transactions. It's about their business. So it's a business discussion. We only translate it to technology right at the end. So that's essentially the first thing. Sometimes we use design thinking methodology, if it's possible, to help to get everybody in the rooms input in a very nice way. Once we've done that, on the counter side, our solution advisors are working on a technical discovery. And so they run several reports with a customer to see, for example, how well you're running certain processes, what's the size of your database, are you ready for the move to S/4HANA, or are there some prerequisites that you still have to go through, and so forth. So once we have that, and we've done the discovery, this then allows us to map it to technology that would address the business challenges, and we are able then to put that technology into an architecture. Once we have the architecture, of course, we then have to determine where we're going to start. What's the roadmap? So it's one thing to have an architecture, but remember I told you earlier on, if you try too much, you end up doing nothing, right? So you want to be very clear on where you're going to start, what's in the second phase, what's in the third phase, because this is a journey. It's not a big bang approach, it's a journey, and it's a continuous loop. So once we've got that, we've got now all the items and so forth, this is where we are then able to start looking at what this would look from a commercial point of view, implementation point of view. We are then able to bring this information into a business case and develop a business case that will show you what is the value that you will get by implementing SAP S/4HANA. We do this value down to value driver level. So what would be your finance, the reduction on your finance cost? If you reduce your audit cost, what would that reduction mean? Up to that level. That allows us, when we summarize all of this and we compare it to the cost of the software and the implementation, to do a return on investment and to come up with the payback period for a customer. If a customer wants to move to the cloud, then, or is not sure whether to move to the cloud or on-premise, then we can do a TCO where we can show him this is what it's going to cost you on-premise and this is what it's going to cost you in the cloud. We basically then take all of that information, put it into a executive presentation, which we then present back to the executives of the organization. So that essentially is the process. Now you would see a lot of little people there and so forth. I can explain each one of those for you. I think my SAP colleagues would know what that means. The most important one, of course, that you need to know is there's the industry and value advisor. That's me, okay? And we normally coordinate, I'm joking, but we normally coordinate this entire process. We do this in very close collaboration with the business architects and obviously the solution advisors as well. And then we have salespeople and so forth also involved in this. On some of the engagements, we had as many as 36 SAP people involved in this discovery phase, in this build the vision phase. So it's quite a big investment from SAP side. Now here's the good news. It's a free service. Did you hear that? I mean, coming from SAP, you know, it's a free service. The only thing that we ask is that on the customer side, we get the right people to work with. So we want to speak to executives, we want to speak to the functional leaders, business owners, IT architects, and so forth. We need the right people in those workshops. And that's the investment that we require from our customers. So I can tell you that at some organizations, we had about 100 to 150 employees involved in such an exercise. And that's when you know it's really going well, you know. So very, very important. You can ask me, Hannes, so how long does this engagement take? So on average, it takes about 6 weeks. But some customers prefers, because I mean, they got to run their businesses in between. So some customers prefers just to have one session a week. And in this case, then of course, it can take longer. Sometimes in Africa, we've got to go to an African country that's far up north, and it's difficult to travel there. So we take a whole team there, we spend the entire week there, and we do everything in a week. So it's dependent on the customer scenario, what gets done or not. So then the critical success factors, if I've not said it enough, it's about collaboration. It's about getting the right people from the customer side and the SAP side involved, speaking to each other. And the most important thing for me from everything on the slide is the bottom one. It's the ownership. This entire exercise is not an outside in from SAP. It's a document that's developed for the customer. The owner of that document is the customer. SAP just supports you through the process. And hopefully, if we did all of this correct, in a correct manner, a customer would be able to take a go, no-go decision whether they want to go for their digital transformation to SAP S/4HANA. I hope I explained that well enough. Right. So, if I don't do this section, then I'll be in trouble with Tracy. So Tracy told me, you better make sure that people are aware of, Tracy's not here, so don't worry. I won't be in trouble, but Tracy asked me to specifically make mention of the services that SAP provides to our customers, that many of our customers might not be aware of. So the first service, of course, is the value management service, the industry value advisor. That's the group that I'm part of. We are in South Africa, a group of about 10 people, and we cover many industries. I cover normally utilities. We have people covering public sector, oil and gas, mining, healthcare, retail, and transportation, and so forth. We are a smallish team here, but we are part of a regional team. And so where we do not have the people, then we pull in the regional colleagues. But as you can see there, we are actually part of a global practice of 450 people. Now, inside this practice, SAP has provided us with some great tools. The very first tool allows us to do benchmarking. So we can benchmark your organization to your peers in a specific industry. The second piece of a solution that we have there is surveys that we can run where you can compare yourself against best practices. And this will allow you to see how your organization is performing against best practices. The third tool that we've got is the business case builder. And here is where, as I explained, we basically will calculate the value or the benefit that you will get from moving from ECC6 to SAP S/4HANA. Not shown on the slide is the TCO builder, where we can allow you to compare what it would cost you on-premise versus in the cloud. And the last one is brand spanking new. So value assurance services. And this is the service that we spoke about earlier, where SAP wants to really stay involved with our customers after they've gone live, to ensure and to help them to measure whether they're actually getting the value, and if not, to figure out with them why and what do we do to change that and so forth. So me personally, I still need to get trained on that. I know some colleagues have already been train on it. So it's really new, but that is absolutely the intention of where people, SAP is going towards, that we will provide tools for customers to run themselves. So it's not just like SAP will run these things. You'll be able to run some of them yourselves to see how you doing in your business. Right. So the SAP Customer Advisory Service is led by Estelle, and we have quite a big team. Estelle, how many people do you have in your team? Yeah. So it's quite a big team. Thanks, Estelle. And this team is very, very involved throughout this process of helping customers with their digital transformation and specifically building the case. For example, in the beginning, some of the technical stuff that is done within Estelle's team is where we run then those first 3 or 4 reports, the process insight report, the business readiness report, checking the coding and the sizing and so forth. So all the technical reports and landscape information is done by Estelle's team. Also, they get very involved later on. The business architects and enterprise architects gets really involved to design the actual architecture, the roadmap going forward, and so forth. So all of this that you've seen, the previous service process, is free services to customers that you can utilize. But unfortunately, not everything at SAP is for free. So if you want to pay for something, then you can, of course, pay for something. So we've got the SAP services. And here, of course, we have the normal implementation services that SAP do, quality assurance. We've got the premium engagement and application management services. Bongile is not here. I don't see him, but yeah, if you want to learn more on that, speak to Bongile. But the one that I want to focus on is that actually SAP has got a service which is called Transformation Advisory Service. And this is where our services team will work very closely with you to determine what is the best migration path for you. Is it greenfields? Is it brownfields? Or is it hybrid? Because that's a key decision that you've got to take moving forward. And they will do, of course, a lot of work with you to come up with a recommendation very specific to you as a customer. Now, of course, I think SAP would fire me if I do a presentation and I don't mention RISE somewhere, you know. So RISE, of course, is a business transformation as a service. And you will notice that everything I spoke about here in the outcome-driven services and tools, the entire process that I've just explained to you is part of the RISE engagement. Now, in saying that, we don't just do it for customers who moves to RISE, moves to S4 in the cloud using the RISE transformation. This services that I've mentioned is also available to customers who just wants to move on-premise. We understand some customers has got legal reasons why they can't move to the cloud immediately. So it's not a restriction. It's not to say it's just part of SAP RISE. And what I'd like to mention, of course, is that in the RISE, we've got the business intelligence, process intelligence with Signavio, where there's additional functionality, of course, available to you to analyze your business processes and change and optimize them using Signavio. Lastly, I think this is lastly, we've got Lorna here. So if I don't say this, then Lorna will speak to me afterwards. Good afternoon. And so what I'd like to mention is that besides all the services that SAP can help you with, we are not on an island. SAP is part of an ecosystem, and our ecosystem is extremely important to us. So we have many partners who has developed accelerators and tools that can help customers with their digital transformation to S/4HANA and specifically S/4HANA in the cloud. On the side, you can see our partners are also actively building solutions in the industry cloud. And some of them are sold as Solex solutions, or it's on the SAP App Store, available for you then to utilize. So SAP provides big services, but we, of course, recognize that our partners can also provide some of these services. Our partners has actually been trained on value management. So if you're a partner and you are interested to learn more about SAP value management, then I think it's great for you to learn that, because once we've built the case and we need to then get to the implementation phase, there is a handover that needs to happen. So the handover needs to happen to the implementation partner, be that SAP or a partner. Right, the next steps, I think there's only two things. Very easy. How do you get this going? Please reach out to your SAP account executive. And if you don't have one or you don't come right, phone a friend, phone me. Okay, so just my details is at the end, and you can just send me an email or phone me, and I would be delighted to get this engagement going for you. I've been asked to also mention that there will be a session running on 17 August, where we will be discussing the end of mainstream maintenance in 25 and 27, and what customers' options are, and so forth. So you're welcome to scan the QR code, but the colleagues also informed me that if you go to SAP stand, that you can go there and scan it to register for the event. So I'd strongly encourage you to attend that specific event. And with that, I would like to thank you for your time. I hope you found it interesting, and we are really keen to help you through this process. So thank you, guys. Any questions? I'll be around, of course, today, so you can speak to me. I tell you, Rainer would tell you I'm the nicest guy here, so yeah, so please just come around and have a chat. Thank you, everybody.